Hello, everybody. This is not Chatting with Nuts for sure. We're here on a Friday night. Words. If you're watching this back, thank you for watching it. I am Ponderings as the channel says, and this is that way. That way. I still got it wrong.
Tori. Hi.
Go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Tori, and I run Tori Talks 2 because Tori Talks 1 was taken here on YouTube. And I'm an author and reviewer of mostly fantasy and a smattering of other things.
Awesome. What? It's time to ban. All right.
Ban Andrew.
Yeah, ban him. All right. Got to get this man out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everybody.
All kinds of chaos down there.
Exactly. So I am doing more of a
only when I'm talking to you, Chris.
The smatterings. You make that word sound weird, Andrew. Please stop.
Smattering's not a weird word. It's a great word.
It's coming from
wait, wizard.
No. It's a great word, but it's coming from his mouth. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I read a little bit of science fiction. I read historical fiction, memoirs, general fiction. Sometimes I just finished a Japanese translated book that I buddy read with John Morrow. And that was really fun. And excuse my neighbors mowing their lawn. So if you can hear that, I apologize.
Just imagine the smell of fresh cut grass, and
exactly. Exactly.
It's okay. It's all in love.
Hi, Derry.
Love just does everything. Hello to everybody else as well. We have Tim.
Brian.
Brian.
Sorry, Brian. I did post the link in the Discord, so it should have brought you right here.
And then Matt. Here you go.
Hey, Matt.
So we're going to be talking about Tori as an author today. Now, this is an author interview. We're talking about her books, talking about creative process, stuff like that, because we've talked enough about her as a booktuber. It's just like old news.
I know, I'm boring. Ew. Yeah.
Hey, Neetha.
Hey, Neetha.
And we're going to try to stay away from Guns in the Dog.
I've read one chapter, so.
So you love it, obviously.
I mean, that was a banger of a first chapter. I'm not going to lie.
Sure. Yeah. Got to get that sandwich stuff. Okay, so writer Tori, as the mystery goes.
I should have worn a mask.
It's true.
Yeah.
So you have recently written Bloodstones, and you're working currently on it's somewhere up there. You're working on Queen's Wolf.
Yes.
What? So random. This is, I don't know. The Corral, the Minotaurs. Why?
Yeah.
Minotaurs. Where did the ideas of the Minotaurs come from? Why are you passionate about Minotaurs?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out that question, to be honest. I think that it goes back to the Corral are a race of creatures in my world the Bloodstones world, that are basically, if you took like a Nordic berserker and a Minotaur and put them in a blender, and you have the Corral. And what Minotaurs, and if anybody's gonna make fun of how I say that, you can just not, because like everybody makes fun of me for saying it that way. I don't know why, but I've always thought they were really cool. I don't know why. I honestly don't, but I think it goes back to the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe film that came, the newer one, not the old BBC, but the newer one with Tilda Swinton as the White Witch. General Ottman was so cool. There's that scene, no spoilers or anything, but there's that scene in the battle where he like comes up and he roars and he's got his battle axe, and then he like jumps off this rocky outcrop and like just tanks into this battle. And I was like, that's so cool. So yeah, I think that's probably where it started, to be honest, because I just thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
The Berserker Awakening.
Oh yeah, and I'm so, like, when I play video games, I am 100% the tank character every time. Like, I don't know how to sneak; it's beyond me. That's the level of tank I am. So
you want to sneak, you use the intimidation sneak, where you walk tromping through the holes and say, "Look, you don't notice me."
Or if nobody's left alive, nobody knows you were there.
Exactly.
You know,
theoretically.
So there are different ways to achieve that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also that amazing movie, like they did, like this
was
is
so good.
The example of an adaptation where the changes like made the story better and more engaging.
Yes. I love Edmund as a character, and I thought that Skander Kanes was an incredible cast for him.
Absolutely.
And I mean, like James McAvoy as Tumnus, brilliant casting. Like there were just so many great casting choices in that. I mean, is this the part where everybody get your bingo cards out? This is the part where I remind everyone that I am a Slytherin, which always surprises people, but it's very true.
Sindri is your self-insert?
A little bit. Yeah, kind of. Well, it is funny because Sindri actually is very much, I feel, representative of the character that I often play in games, to be honest. Like, she really is. And there's even, like, this isn't really a spoiler for the major events, but there's a scene with a shield that happens for anybody that's read the Bloodstones, if you know, you know, where Sindri isn't, she dual wields, and she can't imagine why anyone would want a shield messing up their second sword arm, right?
Yeah.
That is 100% how I play games. So there was definitely a little bit of that in there.
Yeah, I'm definitely someone who, like, if I'm doing anything melee, I would rather have a nice dodge action rather than a shield.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I am very much like a strike and dodge and stay away if I can, but
I'm just build up so that I can take more hits than it takes to like I've had a couple of times where my gaming friends that were in the middle of like Elder Scrolls Online or something like that, how are you still alive? And I'm like, it's the build, honey.
Everything is in Constitution. I have more hit points than the boss.
Exactly. Absolutely, Chris. What else would I play? Absolutely.
Yes, anything. I mean, fair.
Fair. Yeah.
If you're using something like a buckler, absolutely, like a tiny one of those shields that basically covers like your hand, is a lot more mobile. If I use a shield, that's what I would be using in real life, to be honest. Yeah, for real. Like the Minotaurs are great and they're iconic and mythological. Like,
agree.
Gosh,
I would love to write a book with actual like more specific Minotaurs, but also the Chorale are going to feature very heavily in the series that comes after the trilogy of that Bloodstones is in.
Great.
And I have some big battle scenes that I'm very excited to get to.
Yeah. I think the lack of them in fantasy, if we're going to overstate Tolkien's influence here, is the fact that Tolkien didn't use them, and I think he didn't use them on purpose because they're Greek origin.
His loss, I mean.
It's true, but he's just like British.
Right. It's about as British fantasy as it can possibly get.
Exactly. Minotaurs, they're too foreign.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine like, you know, some Minotaurs sweeping into the Uruk-hai ranks? That would have been pretty great.
Oh, that would have been beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the crossover we now need.
See, that's the thing. Why don't we have a main character Minotaur? I will someday. I'm going to try that.
I think that comes back to.
It's more fun to see them outside the narrative, though. I think
it kind of goes back to the other kind of concept that I don't know explored a lot with like Tchaikovsky.
Yeah,
where like he talks about how he was like really interested in the non-human characters. Minotaurs are non-human enough that it's harder for people to connect with them. Those are
right.
Especially with early fantasy, like
right.
There, to my knowledge, there weren't that many non-human main characters. So
right.
Anything. Please stop, Brian. No.
I will never read another. I can't say never because I don't know what's going to happen in my life, but I will do my absolute darndest never to read another Sarah J. Maas book. No hate, but she's not for me.
I mean,
small amounts of judgment for sure. Small amounts.
So, Tori, do you have any plans? Do you have?
No, none actually. I just, I don't even know who's going to be in book 2, to be honest. I'm kidding. Yes, I'm currently writing book 2, The Queen's Wolf, and I have kind of a skeleton outline in my head of where I want it to go, and I have major beats and emotional impact moments that I already know are going to be in there. But I'm a pretty flexible writer. I am more of a discovery writer that way, where like, there's even were a couple moments in Bloodstones where it was very obvious that the direction I thought we were going wasn't really fitting, and I was in a kind of a writing slump. And usually when I hit a writer's block moment, it's because I don't know the character well enough, or I'm not listening to what I know the story needs, and I'm just being stubborn about it. So yeah, I have kind of a skeleton outline. I know how the trilogy ends. I know like the major plot beats, but I'm flexible enough where if I get to that point and it's like, this just doesn't fit anymore, I'll, kind of change directions and try something different. But the second series, I actually started when I was in college, like over 10 years ago. And that one's called Edge of the Earth. And I don't know how many books are going to be in that one yet, because I need to actually sit down and figure out what's going to happen in the whole thing. But I had outlined 3 books back in college for that. And when I went back to kind of start where's the history of this going? Because I was going to come back and write book 1 a couple of years ago. And I started working on backstory, and I realized I kind of want to tell a story before this happens. And that's where Legends of the Bruhai came in. And I'm excited because there's going to be some crossover characters. And I think I love the Long Price Quartet, Greenbone Saga kind of thing, where you have this huge like lifetime of decisions and things happening, and you get to see this world and this group of characters throughout a longer stretch of time. And so for the crossover characters coming into Edge of the Earth, I'm really excited to get to stay with them that long. And they're obviously not going to be like front and center in Edge of the Earth, but their influence is going to be really fun to weave in. So yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Nice. So you started with Edge of the Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, let's do a prequel series.
Yep. In typical fantasy author fashion. Yep.
And then you're like, let's do another prequel series about this magic.
Yeah. Well, yes. So my plan is, there's been hints of it already in Bloodstones. There have actually been some hints of where the magic went. And I'm not going to say more than that, but there are a couple of scenes where you get a little flash of that. But what my plan is currently is once we have Legends of the Bruhai finished, then I'm going to release a standalone novel or novella that bridges the gap between Legends of the Bruhai and Edge of the Earth. And that novella is called The Dalyar's Curse. And that is going to go back thousands of years in time to tell the story about where the magic went and why it is the way it is. So yeah, I have that one kind of on the back burner percolating right now.
Now I just want to go back and read all the magic sections that I know that in the Bloodstones, just to like overanalyze them.
Mm-hmm. It's very subtle at this point, but what it's going to be, what I'm hoping is to build something that, if people just read it once through, they're going to love the characters, they're going to love the world and the story. But I want to set it up for the people that do like to go back and reread and see Easter eggs and that kind of stuff, so that when you have the whole picture, there will be things where you can be like, oh my gosh, back in Bloodstones, there was that thing, So I'm trying to keep it all, mostly straight in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true, Derry. But I'm, this is definitely my love letter to fantasy in a lot of ways. And it's everything I've ever wanted to write in a fantasy novel, kind of. So except for the Minotaurs are in there. They're just not front and center. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So evidently there are pirate minotaurs in Dragonlance books. Which
I bought a Minotaur book from Dragonlance because it had Minotaurs in it.
Yeah,
I should.
We need all the Minotaur recommendations to get like coalesced somewhere between Brian and Mike.
Yes.
Do a Minotaur read along.
Yes.
Also, this. I read a really interesting, like, couple paragraph long Tumblr post today about the anatomy of centaurs and how they should have 2 sets of hips.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the way they phrased it was 2 sets of genitalia, but 2 sets of hips,
Mm-hmm.
which was really interesting to me. Just yeah, they just don't
Yeah.
have legs.
The way that centaurs are often built in movies and in like the way they're described or done in artwork, it's like, I don't know how to tell you that would never work. And I mean, obviously it's not supposed to work. It's fantasy, but like,
They have magic holding them up, obviously.
Right, exactly. Suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
I don't know why centaurs have never intrigued me. I feel like I'd rather just write about either just horses or people. Like I don't know about centaurs. I don't know if that's something I would ever write on.
I don't know. I mean, always the best depiction of centaurs is always going to be the Percy Jackson books, where they were the party ponies. Just the hippies that just could run at the speed of magic, and they'd shoot you with trick arrows. It's great. Love that. We're working on it, Anitha. Chill. I don't know how Anitha is being called out, but I support it.
It's just habit at this point. I don't even realize I'm doing it.
I think it was Chris's comment here. Oh, okay. I can mess with that. Thank you.
Am I too loud, guys? Because I realize I'm talking kind of loudly this evening. So let me know if I'm breaking your headphones or.
All right, cool. Is that better? Do I need to yell? Actually, is what's happening? That's awesome. So, have you ever thought about doing other fantasy races in Bloodstones?
Yes. So far, I mean, it's kind of subtle. Other than the Corral, there are other creatures in the world of the Bloodstones that are going to feature. As you'll get some of them in Queen's Wolf and the third book, which is named, but I don't think I've said publicly anywhere what the name is yet, which is good. So, but yeah, I don't know. There's the way the magic system works and the way the lore works in Legends of the Bruhai, there are creatures that are drawn to certain types of acts. And so you're going to see some of that because obviously there's like some military warfare stuff going on in this trilogy, and there's going to be some things with that. And so I'm going to play a little bit. I have some concept art for a creature that we're going to see in book 2. That's pretty creepy, and I'm obsessed with it. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely playing with a little bit of that. But yeah, I've always preferred, at least in my own writing, a little bit softer magic system. I like the mystery of it. I like that it feels bigger than something the characters can completely understand. I'm not a fan of the whole, like, here's the guidebook of exactly how to use your magic system. That's not really my cup of tea. So
dang it.
Sorry. Read Brandon Sanderson for that.
True.
Yeah.
Probably, but I wasn't allowed to browse, sadly, randomly. They were actually taking all the books out when I went because it's under renovation now.
Oh.
Thanks to the Notre Dame fire. Certain acts. Derry, don't
Mind out of the gutter, Derry. No, not those. That would be awkward.
That would be
especially
very
with this particular creature. That would get awkward very quickly and really creepy. So, no.
I mean, it's to me, it's all a spectrum. Magic is a spectrum as it is between. Good. Hitting the all notification bell is great. For anybody that doesn't know,
please do that.
Your notification bells are set to personalized, so it'll tell you if they think you want to know about it. But you have to click on the bell again and set it to all if you want to. And it does tell us, I think, it actually tells us percentages of stuff, which is really interesting.
Nice. Yeah.
But I don't know. With Brandon Sanderson, he's great. Sometimes it's kind of annoying, but Sanderson doesn't necessarily do all hard magic, right? Because Stormlight is such an interesting mix of both. So he definitely mixes all of that. It kind of like progresses toward hard magic, but there's so much. Like once you get into
Right.
it, there's so much that's still really, really soft.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't mind hard magic system as long as it doesn't become the entire point of the story. Like if it's very clear to me that the author is like geeking out about how cool their magic system is and their characters are just kind of, you know, cardboard cutouts, then I'm not here for it.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah. I definitely would like reading Stormlight will definitely be a little bit more illustrative of how he does a lot of his magic. I mean, any of his books really, but Stormlight is really good at like showing the mix of it.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of getting back on the topic of you, because you're here as an author. So how...
Yes.
I had half of a thought. A half of a thought.
Story of my life. Story of my life.
Yeah. So about like you're talking about like with wars and stuff like that. How are you approaching that in your write? Because I haven't seen you write battle scenes or anything that much. I mean, a little bit, like some individual battle scenes.
Not
like,
larger scale.
On a larger scale, how are you approaching that?
Very carefully. One of the things that I'm really careful about, and I actually have sat down with a couple friends of mine that are much more just experienced with reading and bringing in like large scale battle and military situations. Just to kind of talk through some of the logistics of where I'm going in book 2 for Legends of the Bruhai, because I'm not going to have like massive world encompassing battles if it doesn't make sense. So like, for example, if I have characters who are very guerrilla style warfare, it's going to be more of that. It's not going to be like, you know, because it doesn't make sense. If I had 2 large forces that were going to clash over a giant field, which I will have in Edge of the Earth, then I will, you know, but I'm really trying to make sure that I'm honoring the style of warfare that each of these groups are accustomed to. And they're also thinking about, obviously, like, you know, the Black Legion, which is a giant cavalry contingent. Like you're not going to want to just meet them on an open field, right? Like that doesn't. So I'm working really hard to make sure that because military and combat and all of those things, I'm so picky in my own writing, and also when I'm reading it in other people's writing, that it makes sense. Like your character should know what weapon they're using and why, and like it should match. Like if somebody's swinging a battle axe around like it's a, you know, one-handed sword, you know, and I see that a lot where people just don't, they're like, oh, and this is a weapon and it has a sharp edge on it, you know, and it's like, yeah, but how does that specific weapon, I'm a nerd. So like, exactly. You know, I'm trying to make sure that each of the pieces make sense and that it's, you know, the warfare fits the characters that are involved.
Yeah. And figuring out how to describe those scenes and those just like the different styles of fighting is always really interesting. It's something I need to pay more attention to, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or I want to pay more attention to.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
I've seen like a bunch of YouTube videos on like different types of fight scenes and stuff like that are like really interesting, just like whether they're analyzing fight scenes or just like talking about how a specific weapon actually moves and stuff like that. It's so great. And I'm just like, I need to pay more attention to that in writing, because I feel like I miss like how those are described sometimes, because there is a lot of what you're saying where people kind of just, hey, I have a thing with a sharp axe, so it's just going to do this thing. Oh,
flail.
Yeah, please.
Well, and also I think writers often don't take advantage of their environment as much as they can. Absolutely. Because it's like, oh, there's this person and this person that each have sharp objects, and then they fight, and it's like, well, what's around them? Who's around them? What other things can you pull into that make it more interesting? Because we've all seen the you know, 2 people with sharp objects how many times in films and in books, that it's like, who's in the story, and make it about them, and also look at the surroundings and actually make it, you know, individual.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I kind of remember at the Bloodstones fight scenes of like, it didn't feel very isolated, like that isolated 2 people in a circle, and there's an implicitly drawn line to everybody else around them, and they're just like,
yeah, exactly. Everyone else is going to wait to see how this particular duel turns out, and then no, that's not how that works. Yeah.
Anitha, no, Edge of the Earth is not the book 3
That
title.
is the title of the series after Legends of the Bruhai. I have not released the title of book 3 yet.
That's true.
I have it, but I haven't released it yet.
When Hob gets to it.
Right?
When...
Yep.
Hello, Kev. Glad
Hey,
to
Kev.
see you. Guns It On. I think that she does this extremely well. Or she. Brain fart.
Emily
Tchaikovsky.
Marshwick does it extremely well.
Yeah, Emily Marshwick
Yeah.
does it extremely
I know
well.
what you meant.
Tchaikovsky does it extremely well as well. I agree with this. Andrew, go read Guns of Dawn. You should absolutely do it. It's great.
He's on a high with Sun Eater right now, so I don't know if I could tempt him away.
Ooh, that's tough. So, what type of scenes? Like, what is most challenging for you to write with your scenes?
Honestly, discussions, like conversations, because I think about them so much more. Like not dialogue in general isn't necessarily the hardest, but like when you have especially political conversations, I sit with those for like ages, and I'm like, okay, then this person says this. Is that like, how can I push that a little bit farther, and how can we imply something that they're not going to outright say? And it's a lot of verbal juggling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say those battles actually aren't probably the hardest. I really enjoy, like, I'm a military historical fiction and fantasy nerd, so I love writing them. I love reading them. I do not understand the readers who skip battle scenes. It makes me really sad inside to know that there are people that are just like, ew, like, what happens next? If it's badly written, okay, fine. But like, you know.
But if you're going to assume every fight scene is badly written, or to you it's badly
written. Right. That's so sad.
Like, I mean, be fair, I skip intimate scenes, but that's like, I feel like it's a completely different personal choice to me.
Right, 100%. And I mean, I get, if somebody's not into reading violence, I don't know why you would read like military fantasy if you're not into violence, though. That would be a unique choice. Not that you couldn't.
Are you saying that we're all just into violence?
I mean,
gosh. So breaking news.
Breaking news.
Don't make you violent. Military fantasy does.
100%. Yep. It wasn't Skyrim. It was Anthony Ryan.
Yeah, no. Video games are just an outlet now for the rage and the violence that just like.
Absolutely. I mean, during college, I played an obscene amount of Skyrim, and that was 100% what it was for, is just to work out my angst, to be honest. I was like, I'm just going to run around and knock skeletons over for like 3 hours.
Anitha, this can't be true. You love violence. Also, I agree with her statement on shadow campaigns. I think you would love it.
Okay. Noted. I can see tactics, Rogue. I can see where people would get bogged down by like military tactics. Absolutely. Because that can get like,
Look, I'm sorry if we're just talking for 6 hours about logistics. It's 80% of the war, people.
Yep. And that's why it's knowing your limitations as a writer. So like the characters that I'm writing from in terms of like the narration POV, aren't the ones completely in charge for a reason, because then I don't have to explain every single decision, and I don't have to be standing there staring at a map for like 2 chapters, So
you don't have to cut out all the entire, like, you don't have like an entire miniature set where you have like, you can set up different hills and like put grass on it and like set up an entire war.
I wish.
Just to illustrate your.
I mean, I may actually do that a little bit in this next book, just because there's going to be a lot of movement and it'll be tricky. Wish me luck, guys.
That's wild.
Wow.
It's not about maps. It's about
I love maps.
We love maps, but it's
we love
like
maps.
If you want to bring out your entirety, like. Bring out all the Warhammer and war game sets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I do not endorse this as an accountant. I cannot endorse this as an accountant because I am not a tax person. So don't take this as tax advice at all.
Just take tax advice from Andrew Meredith.
This is itching the back of my brain. I feel like I have been. Oh, I know what it is. It's basically Nine Fox Gambit. Okay, this is a sci-fi series that it's like got some heavy science fiction stuff, hard sci-fi stuff that like skated by my brain. But essentially, you get into different formations, and you make these weird effects happen, and they do things to your enemies, and it's basically that. It's.
I mean, that's cool.
That. Thank you.
Also to Joe Abercrombie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I've read like the first few chapters when I was in college of whatever the first book is.
Of Joe Abercrombie or Mark Lawrence?
Abercrombie.
Oh my gosh! Now you stole it out of my brain.
It's not before they're hanged.
No.
Not best served cold.
Oh my gosh! The blade itself. There we go. Don't project your like goldfish brain over here. I don't need any more of that.
Yeah. So I remember. Yeah, the blade itself.
Thank you, Alethea.
Yeah, thank you. I read the first like chapter, and I think when I was in college, and like going back to it now, I'm just like I remember him saying all these different names, but there was like all these place names, and there's no map, and I'm just like, why? Why would you just like all these place names and then not tell us where they are? I need context, brother. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Figure it out.
Yeah, you should totally read it, Anita, considering you have my copies of it now, or my former copies of it now.
Also, Asian dramas.
It is Asian bait. I have no idea what the ethnicity of the author is.
Don't get it wrong.
I don't know. I'm just gonna say I don't know and not make any statements at all, because that would be yeah, me and Angela from Literature Science Alliance. It's a great series.
Nice.
Specifically, that first one really hit me the hardest, but like overall, just like fantastic. 300 pages per book.
Love that.
And technically, like, you should read the book of short stories afterwards, but it's kind of weird because there's one short story that actually kind of wraps up the entire series, and the rest of them aren't necessarily canon. Would you ever considering having an illustrated edition of a book?
Yes. Absolutely. At some point when I actually have all 3 Bruhai books out, I would love to do special editions. We'll see how it does, because I don't want to do a Kickstarter for a special edition unless I know that, you know, it's going to support itself and it's done well up to that point. But absolutely. I mean, I feel like every author's dream is to have like a really gorgeous, you know, sort of Kaigen-esque special edition of their book.
Or the Threadlight bind-up as well.
Yes, that one was really pretty too. But also, I actually think that Phased would be incredible as a graphic novel.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
I actually think that would be the best format for it, to be honest.
Yeah, I could see that doing very, very well, especially with some of your descriptions of how like some of the changing works and stuff like that. That would be great to see on a page like that.
I agree. I would love to see that someday.
Speaking of Phased, so Phased, for context for some people that don't know, and context for the question, starts with two sisters coming out of a nebulous government facility for that is supposed to be reintegrating them into the society and all the implications of that. I guess the question is, why did you start there? Because like normally with that sort of like, hey, nebulous government institution, taking up 2 ladies that are powerful and have these powers, I feel like a lot of the stories are either the government institution is catching them, or it's a revenge plot against the government institution. So why did you choose that particular spot with that trope to start?
I think because a lot of books with that particular narrative are typically, and I'm sure, I mean, obviously there's always exceptions, but I feel like the focus of the story is usually the takedown of that and replacing, it's kind of a revolutionary sort of narrative, or it's this one was a very intimate story to me. Like it's about Val and Lila. It's about their struggle to integrate into human society and control what they've been taught is, a danger to the world in the fact that they are werewolves. And it's more a deep dive character study of PTSD than it is anything else. And so the government facility and the antagonists, they're very much important pieces of the story, but they're also the backdrop, right? I didn't want them to be more front and center than Val and Lila, and the internal struggle came before the external, if that makes sense.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just like both of the other storylines would definitely have the organization take center stage.
And also, I mean, to get a little bit deeper with why I didn't show them being captured, they were much younger when they were captured, and the things that they saw were really horrible and scarring to them as people, especially young people that are in their emotional development and crucial development stages. So I didn't want it to be in a weird way. I think it's a little bit I didn't want people to have needed to be there to validate how they were responding to it, if that makes sense. Just know that this was there and that happened, and then see the after effects. And because I think so many people want to know and be right in the middle of the initial trauma event, that it's not like that becomes the focus as opposed to the survivors and the aftermath of what they're working through.
Yeah, and I think that's a really powerful point to be in at the beginning. And yeah, like what Anita's saying, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it helps with like definitely having more empathy. And this is, one of the things I love about fantasy books is like it allows you to tell stories and help get into other people's minds in real life, right. I guess.
Right.
It's one of those things that like, you could read that and be like, okay, cool. This is something that can be applied to real life, of what you were saying, right. About not invalidating somebody's, mental illness or something that they have going on just because you weren't there.
Right. And I mean, one of the things that I always tell people not to get into a whole discussion about trauma unless you want to, but like the whole, where people always want to say, well, what happened? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, technically that's not a question you should ask. If they're willing to give it to you, the answer of that to you, that's a privilege. But like nobody owes you an explanation of exactly what they went through to get here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, exactly, Anita. And I do mention it like kind of like it's an off page kind of mention later on in the book, but you don't get it right away. Mm-hmm. Derry, I agree. The government isn't the antagonist, or the government actually isn't, because the DAO organization is actually not the government technically. They're funded because they're hiding a lot of things, but Dr. Carrington, who's the leader of that organization, is definitely the antagonist in book 1 and in the sequel that I'm working on.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's always show versus tell. I think is a very, not necessarily harmful, but like it's one of those things of like level 1. Is show versus tell,
and some telling is fine.
Yeah. But like once you get up, it's because I think the reason that rule exists is because people's default setting is tell,
exposition.
So you have a show and emphasize the show before you start really realizing where the telling is necessary.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All sorts of fun. So you're currently working on Queen's Wolf right now, and another one called Silver for Souls.
Yes, which came out of nowhere.
I mean, yeah, came out of roughly nowhere, except like a random like short story, whatever, that was really fun. Mm-hmm. What I think my very specific question is, do you have cover ideas for this? Because I don't know why this idea that you have is just like, oh my gosh, there's so many cool covers that you could do with this.
So I have the line sketch for the cover already, actually.
Nice.
And you guys, like, I'm so excited. It's so cool. It's so cool. I wanted to get kind of ahead on this one because I do intend on releasing Cold Silver this year, the first book. And so, because I wanted something that I could work on the side, because Queen's Wolf, like writing an epic fantasy takes so much. I mean, you know, that takes so much mental power and so much energy because there's so many pieces and it's such a big scale. And so I didn't want to rush that, but I also wanted to have a project that I could potentially release this year. And I don't know if Queen's Wolf is going to be ready by the end of 2024 or not. It's going to depend on what the story needs and if I'm able to give it the right, like I want it to be the best I can get it before. So yeah, the line sketch looks amazing. And I am very excited to reveal it once I get the final product and get closer to the book being done. But yeah, it's very cool. I'm very excited.
Are you doing something more, I don't know, traditional necromancer with it with like grays and greens? Or are you doing some, or is there other colors, main color schemes that you're working
What I will tell you guys about it is that it is the landscape is frozen mountain tundra. And there are undead things on the cover with the protagonist, Hunter, and also her animated behind her. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say who the artist is yet? Allowed? Do you allow yourself?
I don't know. I'm trying to decide if I should or not. She's incredibly talented. Her name is Helena Nikolina, and she's from the Ukraine. And
Ooh.
I saw her artwork just kind of putzing through Portfolio Day on Twitter. And oh my goodness. First of all, can we just talk about the number of insanely talented artists on Twitter? It's kind of crazy. But I found her and I really loved her portfolio. And I reached out to her and just was like, hey, this is the idea I have. Is that up your alley? Is that something you'd be willing to do? And she's been fantastic to work with so far. She's just, her style is, I think, going to be absolutely perfect for this book. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm very excited about that. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Ooh. Yes.
Yep.
It's cool. So with Cold Silver for Souls, actually got to, just the artwork in general. I don't know why artwork in necromancy always just is really, really cool to me.
I was very specific in how I wanted Rip, her animated corpse, to be portrayed on the cover. And I actually sent her, bless her heart, she was great because she asked me for references and stuff, and I sent her a 6-page PDF cover brief.
That's what all they want.
I know. And I was like, is that okay? And, you know, she was very much like Eastern European, like, yep, great. I was like, awesome. But yeah, she just that line sketch, I was like, wow, like I could not have asked for her to interpret that better. And it's very much her style. And I feel like so far it's been a really good merge of my vision and her particular artistic talent and style. So, yeah.
So with Cold Silver for Souls, what you've said before that it's like, what was it, 1960s Yukon or something along those lines?
1880s, 90s, roughly. I mean, it's not directly our world. That's just kind of the general era that I'm pulling from to create mine. And so you've got like the prospectors, the big like business moguls who have like the big money because they're up at the top of the mining chain. And also you have kind of more what I would consider a mundane magic system. I'm not doing the like mages with fireballs in the streets kind of magic. It's very like practical everyday magic. And then necromancy. So Hunter is the first character I've written and intend to publish that's a first person narration. I had always thought I wasn't going to be able to do first person because I never liked it. And then when I started working on the short story that Hunter was in, it was like everything just clicked. And I was like, I just hadn't found the right character yet. And now I have one. So it's been an absolute blast writing her. And I'm able to channel a lot of my like rural Minnesota upbringing into some parts of her story that has been really fun. So yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I'm psyched.
What's like the tech level of stuff going to be? Are you gonna have guns? Was a
Yes.
specific question that I was gonna ask.
Yes, there are revolvers, and Hunter fights with shade silver knives, which are a magical metal property, which is what that's what the rush is a shade silver. But she also has revolvers. And she is going to be my cosplay for the cons next year. I cannot wait.
Snap.
I'm very excited.
That makes me even more excited. Oh my god.
I know, I'm really excited about it. It's easier than a Sindri cosplay. There's just more pieces to that, you know?
Just get a long duster and a hat, right?
Yep, long duster, hat, gun belt without the gun, obviously. And then like the boots and the vest. I have the vest already. So
does that mean Ben's gonna dress up as her animated?
That would be really funny. Well, her animated is about 6'3" and like probably two of my husbands standing next to each other. So just pat him up.
Platform boots and pillows. That's all you need.
Exactly. Yep. Yes, Hunter is a female main character. Mm-hmm. She is a tomboy, but she is, definitely she.
Cool. What sort of themes are you approaching with this story?
Do you want the surface or deep level to answer that question?
Let's go. We got time.
So when I first started writing it was just about, like, when I wrote the short story, it was about exploring the setting of the frozen tundra and the undead and the idea of because I've always wanted to write a necromancer main character, and so I just was playing with it. And then as I started digging into to start building it into a novel and then a series, because I'm planning on, I think I have 4 or 5 books outlined for this series so far. It's really one of the deeper themes of this series is letting go, and what happens when you chain yourself to anger or vengeance or trauma or something that you carry with you for far too long and allow it to poison you. And as Andrew very astutely points out, my autobiography should be every novel a therapy session, because that is absolutely true for me. I mean, my outline, Andrew has like spreadsheets for days. I have like 6 cells on an Excel spreadsheet with like, book 1 has this thing that happens, and that's like it. And there's like 6 cells, 1 for each book, and that is the entirety of my outline. So, I mean, it's not really that exciting, but I have some of them named already. I'm also hoping to bring in some influence from some of my favorite Western films. So like I have a kind of a reverse Magnificent Seven storyline planned for one of the books in the series, and a little bit of a Young Guns flavor to one of them. So
do you have other, so besides those 2 films, what are some of the other influences you would have? I mean, even on your even on your other books, like some of your other, like, even not even books, but like multimedia type of influences on some of your other work.
So many. Well, I mean, I've talked about this a little bit, but Bloodstones and the story of the Bruhai, there's a lot of influence from Asian films and K-dramas specifically. If you go back, I mean, I'm kind of notorious at this point for loving Motley Crue's and Sibling Bonds and, you know, all of those kind of things. And tragic heroism is what my mother called it, and I think that's actually pretty apt. I love tragic heroism. And that, honestly, even back to, you know, Edmund was my favorite character in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because there's that struggle, and there's that, like, he was never just the kid that believed everything, you know, and that's definitely more close to my journey, especially with my faith, since we're talking about C.S. Lewis. But also, a lot of the Motley Crue, like, I loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles growing up. Absolutely love them, which I'm sure shocks everyone if you've read my books. Raph is my favorite turtle, hands down, which also shocks no one. But just the underdog, the kind of warrior school Motley Crue kind of vibes. Trying to think what other influences. Well, for phased, I mean, Underworld is my standard for vampires and lichens. Like
Beautiful movies.
Oh my goodness. Well, the first three. The fourth one was mid, and the fifth one we're not going to talk about.
I'll be honest, I need to rewatch them at some point because it's been so long.
But yeah, I mean, Celine from Underworld has been one of my like favorite characters of all time. I think she's amazing. I haven't seen Tombstone. Andrew Meredith also yells at me for this. I do intend to watch it soon. It's true. That's not an exaggeration, you guys. I will watch it. I promise. I even have it on my Amazon. I have it like on my watch list. I'm going to watch it soon. What else? Yes, I do love Snape. Snape is my favorite Harry Potter character. Shocking. I know. No. Yeah. I mean, he's the most loyal character in the entire franchise, and I will die on that hill. So.
I mean, fair. I feel like he's probably at the very least the most, I don't know, one of the most consistent stories.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the end of Snape actually kind of makes sense over the entirety of the entire like Harry Potter story, and not all of the stories do.
Yes. I love Hagrid. I do. But like Snape is just, I don't know. I don't make the rules. I do love Hagrid though. Don't get me wrong.
Everybody loves it.
Who does?
Yeah, who does?
Are you okay if you don't like Hagrid? I don't think so. Hagrid and Mrs. Weasley. Like, if you're against either of those two characters,
red flag.
Huge red flag.
Big red flag.
But yeah, I'm trying to think other, like, of course, as soon as I get on these, my brain is just like, what influences?
Exactly.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was one of my gateways into like anime, and that became a big influence on me. So like the idea of Yami and Yugi, like, and that whole thing I just thought was fascinating. So it was a lot of, even though it wasn't, I mean, it's fantasy, let's be real, but like it was kind of softer fantasy at that point, but it was just the kind of the trajectory that I think led me here. Anime has been Rurouni Kenshin is one of my favorite animes of all time. So yeah, the tortured warrior prototype is definitely in my DNA.
I don't think I've actually heard of that. I might have heard it. I don't remember.
So Kenshin's been around for ages, and the author is a despicable, awful human being. But the story itself is actually based on a wandering samurai character who did exist in Japanese history, and he basically was an assassin. He's the Butosai, the manslayer, and he was an assassin for many years when he was very young, and then he gets himself a reverse blade sword and takes up the vow that he's not going to kill anyone anymore. But of course, he's made a lot of enemies, so it's a hard thing for him to keep that promise as we go through his story. And it's so good. It's so good. And again, Motley Crue. There's a great Motley Crue in that story. But yeah, that's Kenshin in a nutshell. If you don't want to watch an anime, but you're okay with subtitles, the live action adaptations of Rurouni Kenshin, there's 5 films, and they are, in my opinion, the gold standard of what an anime adaptation should look like. They're absolutely incredible. Incredible. They're good even if you don't like anime. Like, they're so good.
Always. Got it.
I'm just talking to the void over here. It's fine.
Yeah. How long ago were those adaptations published? Because I feel like that might be.
Oh man.
Influences for like all the other anime adaptations that ended up ultimately failing.
Film release. Let's see. 2012. That's been out for a while.
Yeah. So that's probably a little bit before. Yeah. That's probably slightly before some of the other ones like that are really terrible that Netflix released.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you love Motley Crue. Is Cold Silver gonna be a Motley Crue? And if it is gonna be a Motley Crue. Okay.
Sort of. Yes. Not right away. Basically, we're building a Motley Crue throughout the series.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't get Motley Crue vibes from the very first one, the short story that you released.
See, the problem is Hunter is a very introverted, not a big fan of people in general. So it's hard for Hunter to make friends long enough to keep them around. And so she's very much a loner and just wants to do her own thing. And circumstances kind of put her in proximity with other people that she can't get rid of. And that kind of becomes a like begrudging motley crew in a way. Because once she's stuck with them for a certain amount of time, then she's like irritatingly loyal to them, even though she doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
So, but her,
you're my friends now.
Yeah, I guess fine. Yeah, would die for them, but is never going to tell them that, you know. Yeah, she's much more introverted than me, which is kind of fun. But her best friend, I think, is going to be one of the favored characters in the series. I'm pretty sure it's like one of the only really close friends that she has, and her name is Miss Addie. And Addie is a very up and coming, upstanding businesswoman who owns a hotel, and she is like the life of the party character. And she and Hunter are just, I love writing those two in the same scene. It's quite wonderful. So I think everybody's going to really like Addie. She's great.
Gosh, Anita. I mean, I see some of the anime influences on Hunter a little bit, just a little bit.
You know, it's funny because that's fair, Anita, because those are always the characters that I tend to enjoy and relate to the most.
All of the loner with a heart of gold, black hair, pale skin.
Why are you describing Sasuke?
He's one of them.
It's true. He's absolutely my favorite character in Naruto. So what do I do? I do actually have an Itachi t-shirt in my closet, though. At least that's a huge step away from Sasuke. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm such an emo at heart, to be honest, that that's my scene.
Probably why we bonded.
Probably. Yeah, definitely emo. Ponderings of emo. That should have been our title. That should be our
Ponderings of emo. Let's go just sit and go.
Or just emo ponderings.
Yeah, talk about NF, and well, NF is, you could argue
he's pretty emo. Not the visual, but the yeah.
I mean, in his visuals, you could say he's like, I don't know, not an emo style. It is definitely not an emo style.
No,
I feel like his visuals.
He's a sad boy.
Therapy session. Like there's some of those music videos, like that are in the houses and stuff like that. I could see that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense considering like one of my best friends, who him and I have bonded a lot of over like going to like a My Chemical Romance concert and stuff like that. He's also like him and I are both also big NF fans. But
nice.
Yeah.
NF was amazing in concert for anybody that is interested. Like, wow, that was my first big concert and it was incredible.
Anita, this is a rabbit hole. This is a real
rabbit hole. That's a huge rabbit hole. I mean, I feel like my definition is going to be super rambly, like because there's the emo in spirit, and then there's the emo scene of like the people with the like giant dark eyeliner and stuff, and the hair that goes like this, and
If you want to see a caricature of an emo person, look up a series of videos called "Felt Emo Might Delete."
I need to look that up later too.
They're beautiful, but there is definitely a lot of caricature in there. Just like tight, skinny black jeans, black eyeliner, stuff like that. Emo and goth are adjacent.
Yeah, I'm kind of like weirdly in like a goth emo grunge kind of area. Like I just kind of pick and choose bits from all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Punk, a little bit of that.
Woodland. It's fine though. I would sit there
absolutely.
And take pictures dressed all in black. Yeah,
I absolutely took a like emotional selfie on train tracks when I was like 15. 100%.
If I was into taking photos at stuff like that, I would totally have done that. But like taking photos, that means there's a rabbit trail.
It is Alethea. It's like the actual definition of it is, but there's also like, it's become, you know how that thing is where somebody labels something as emo and now that's kind of become its own, like, well, has been for a long time, but like there's a scene that and a visual that goes along with that. And
yeah, there's a bit of a like a, you know, just like with punk and some other stuff of just like an outsider, not complex, but just like, hey, we're all outsiders and we all identify ourselves as outsiders to a certain extent. It's just so different and not like other.
We're not like the other girls.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not
exactly.
Like, yeah.
100%. Those are my characters. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I don't know. For me at least, like I have always really identified with and enjoyed writing characters that are really introspective. I think is the right word. And like, yeah, Evanescence is a great, My Chemical Romance is a good, like, that's like the most quintessential I'm trying to be emo band ever. If people tell you they listen to My Chemical Romance, it's like, okay. Yeah. So.
It's possible.
We're just trying to keep up, honestly, Michael.
All the poets.
But yeah, so.
I'm not okay, I promise.
I mean, Snape is like all of my favorite characters just are, yeah.
I think I find the issue that I have to resist writing emo characters all the time, right? Because writing a villain and being like, okay, does this read like an actual villainous person, or does this just read like a teenager
sad boy?
Yeah, rail against the world because it.
Well, I mean, I feel like every villain should have a little bit of that, you know.
I mean, yes, but it, you know, doesn't help that like he's trying to get his father ousted from Parliament, basically. So
that's fair.
Daddy issues.
That's fair. I mean, daddy issues are definitely a theme in my characters as well. So not to like further the stereotype,
every book a therapy session, right?
100%. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I mean, I think there's a big difference between, and this is where I draw the line, because I do think that a lot of writers or books that have kind of that more like emo sort of vibe with the main characters tend to get just really angsty. And it's just like there's an impulsiveness and an angstiness to it that feels caricatured. And that is not anything that I want to do with. So
yeah. And that's kind of how I felt with reading the sample that I read of Empire the Vampire. And I know like Derry come at me in the comments.
Derry's coming.
But like I didn't like the caricature feeling, and I know that's probably just like there's a bit of like Australian humor in there, and I can understand that. It just wasn't for me because it was just
I agree. I read the sample of it too, and I was like, this is too edgelord for me. Like
it read like, again, a teenager trying to be emo from his bedroom because he was born in the wrong decade.
Right. So, weren't we all? You know.
Yeah, if I had been born 5 years earlier, it would have been great. But like,
would have been great.
I could have like, you know, actually enjoyed My Chemical Romance before they broke up instead of discovering them like 2 years before they.
Can I ask remind me what your birth year is, or like 90s?
96.
So I'm exactly. So you should have been born when I was born.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was the perfect year to be born. It was better then.
It was better back in the day.
Back in the day, for sure. Yep. 91. That was the year to be alive.
Exactly, Mike.
Yes.
Cut.
100%.
I'm not going to explore that statement.
Yeah.
Well, it is 7:00. We've been going at this for an hour. Is there anything else that you would like to explore, unpack, rewind before we wrap things up?
I think that's.
Anybody has any last second questions? It's true. I didn't read it smart enough, Derry.
Yeah, you just don't get it.
It's just not for me. Not for me.
Yeah. I've had a couple of those series where I feel bad because I know that they're super beloved, and I'm just like, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's understandable. Hey, it's for everybody, you know? Not everybody is meant to love ACOTAR to death.
That is true. That is a true statement.
Oh, yes. Since it's the end, we'll allow this question.
So I'm one chapter in. It's great. No, that was a really, I told Pete when we first got on, that was a pretty banger first chapter. So like, I'm definitely ready to check this out. I really like it's definitely a little shakeup from what I've been reading, which I appreciate. And I'm reading it kind of alongside Dead House Gates, which is a good contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do have a question. When are you gonna read Fred the Vampire Accountant? That's the real question.
Soon. You guys, I'm trying. I don't read 30 books a month, so this month,
Tori, why not?
it's over halfway through May, and I have finished 2 books. Okay,
That's fair.
Two books.
That's a good pace. 4 books per month is about my pace.
For me, that's I usually get through between 6 to 8. That's usually my like average.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did hit kind of a like I needed some recovery time after Ship of Magic, so I know that was part of it. And I was vlogging Iron Gold, and whenever I vlog a book, I have a hard time getting back into reading afterwards because it kind of vlogging is really fun and I love doing it, but it's a little bit of a burnout afterwards just because then I'm just like when you're reaching for your camera every time something happens in the story that you want to make sure you let people know how you feel about it, it's a very different reading experience.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to just get back into like reading for me, you know, and not like not feeling like I have to tell people what I think about every 5 seconds of it. So
yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, everybody, that vlog is up on Tori's channel, so go check it out.
You should go give it some more views.
Nice. Good job, Michael. We love more Hob reading.
Love that.
How many times have you read Dresden Dairy? Like
a lot.
5?
3, 4?
A lot.
I don't know.
Anyways.
I mean, I can understand that. Like I was reading Iron Gold, which would be my first read of Iron Gold, but like I just finished my 4th reread of the Red Rising as a whole trilogy. And the first one, I started the audiobook, which will be my 6th time through the first book. So
I was almost spot on.
You were very close. So close. Yeah. But Queen's Wolf, I mean, it's early next year, probably at the latest. I'm not planning on dragging that out, but I do want to give it the time it needs to be what it wants to be.
That's
and
good. Love it.
I want to be proud of it when it's done. I don't want to rush. And I think the indie scene sometimes gets too much into a hustle culture that I have worked very hard to just, keep a boundary with, because yes, it's important to release books, but I also don't want to release books that are half-baked for me, and I know that I need more time to really make sure that I am happy with it. So Cold Silver should be out this year though, toward the end of the year.
Really
me too. Really excited about it.
So
it's going to be great.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming on, and thank you very much everybody in the comments for just being here and for me seeing your lovely comments, not necessarily your faces, but
your profile pic faces.
True, your profile picture faces. That works.
Yeah.
Yep. You can find. I think I put Tori's link down below, and then I'm also going to try to see if I can get the artist link to the artist Twitter and toss that downstairs as well.
You're gonna. I shouldn't have said anything. Everybody's gonna know by tomorrow.
Look, we gotta appreciate the artists.
We do, and trust me, I intend to blast her everywhere as soon as I can.
Fantastic. Anita, thank you for coming out of your cave. I hope that you're having a fun time finishing Eyes of the Void today. Maybe. We'll see. Probably not. She's read 5 pages today, I bet.
That's fair. Hey, there are some days like that.
Yeah. It's been like 2 months.
It's okay. Reading is hard, Pete.
Reading can be very, very hard.
Reading is hard.
Thank you for getting out of bed, Derry.
Thanks, Derry.
We'll see everybody, or at least some of you, at Chatting with Nuts as well, since that's coming up tonight. And everybody just have a wonderful night. Get some rest. Rest is important. I say that mostly for me.
Drink water.
Everybody else. Yes, absolutely.